And he comes out on stage and he pretends to be German, and he's got this big blonde wig on, and he's got this shirt that's unbuttoned down, and he's all very dramatic and very Vegas, but in a German accent. And he's got this suitcase that he opens up, and he's when he opens the suitcases up, he's got 5 different types of sausage stuck to the inside of this suitcase. And then he gets a guy to come up, and he's trying to pick 1 to 5 which sausage it is, roll the die, and whatever the number is, pick up that sausage. And then he kind of reads their minds and tell them what sausage they're holding. And he's getting them to roll a die, but he's supposed to have this really fancy blindfold, but he doesn't have a blindfold. So he ends up putting this little bag on his head, and then he's telling them what sausage he's holding. And he gets 2 guys up on stage and tells them what sausages they're both holding, while he's standing there with his German accent and a bag on his head. And I'm just like, that is the most imaginative way of using that product that you could possibly imagine. He's just taken what can be portrayed as quite a serious mentalism piece and just thrown it into this crazy, high energy, hilarious routine. And I was in pain. Drew kept looking at me and just going, I told you. And I was laughing that much. I was in agony watching him do that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Desert Island Tricks. We have the other half of the Magic Anton deck with us today. I'll let you work out who is who in this situation. He is probably best known to work with that guy. What is his name? Newcomer. I don't know. Craig something. I can't remember his name. But this is the other half. He works with Craig quite closely, and over the past few years, I'm sure everyone's really enjoyed watching his journey through the mat tests and normally being picked on by Craig. Let's all be entirely honest. So this is Matt's official opportunity to get back at Craig. We're not going to edit out whatever Matt says. This is a safe place for Matt. I feel like this is going to be more therapy for Matt at this point, so it should be good. But he is a phenomenal performer. He's really good at exploring new things. I think every time I see a video of him, he's just explored something new, trying something new. Most recently, Blockhead, which is a brave, bold move. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to come up with. I also know, because of who he works with, he must be surrounded by magic. There must be so much magic which comes across his desk every single day. So we don't really know where this is going to go. We'll see. So today's guest, of course, is Matt Clewley. Hello, Matt.
Hey, dude. How's it going?
Good to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm not pulling any punches on Craig today. We can we can say whatever we want about him. He's not even here. He's not in the office today, so that's on him.
Well, notice who we asked to come on out of both of you.
I know. Yeah, I told him that I was coming on, and he was like, "What? You going on Desert Island Tricks?" I was like, "Yeah." He went, "I haven't been on that yet," and I was like, "Well, just shows you Alakazam like more than I guess."
Well,
He wasn't happy.
We've got Ryland coming on next. And then
you've got Royland before him as well.
We're going to try to, yeah. We're going to try and do maybe everyone in your office. We'll just get everyone to do it before Craig.
Well, Thea did her first show on New Year's Eve. We're recording this just after New Year's Eve, and she did her first show where she was helping us out with the illusions and stuff, and the New Year's Eve show that we did at Drower Manor Park. So Thea is now officially an illusionist, so you could get her on as well.
Nice. Perfect.
Before Craig.
He's going to be so annoyed.
Oh, yeah, totally. And it'd be amazing.
When Craig comes on, because undoubtedly he will eventually, what do you think he would put in his spots? What do you think he'd put in his positions?
Oh, God, he'd probably put 8 of his own tricks.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
He'd just list his 8 most recent tricks to try and get more sales on them. That's what Craig would do.
I reckon so. What was his latest one at time of recording?
Focus, I think, is the last one that's come out, isn't it? He's got a bunch of stuff that's coming out. Cheetah chips and stuff, I think, is coming out. I don't even know if I'm supposed to have said that. And then he's got a bunch of other stuff in the pipeline that he's been working on with various other people as well. So by the time it gets to your recording, there'll easily be another 8 tricks that he could promote. So he'd just go for 8 of his own tricks that he's trying to promote at the time, I'm guessing.
God help us all.
And he wouldn't thank me for saying that, but he knows it's true. And he's not going to listen to this anyway because it's me. So yeah, I think I can get away with it.
Well, today it is about you. It's not about what's his name, all right? It's about Matt Clewley.
The other one.
The other one. The lesser known. So, yeah, I'm really excited to find out what your list is like. Did you find it difficult with just the sheer amount of magic that you must be around at the moment?
Yeah, so I made it because of the amount of stuff. I mean, just looking around this particular room that I'm in now, it is literally wall to wall magic everywhere. And when we get stuff that we get sent through or that we buy to do like reviews and stuff on, then I'll always go out and try them. I'll go out and try everything that we get live. So there's that much stuff that we have around that I could pick and choose. But I've gone for stuff that is in my repertoire. I've gone for stuff that I do regularly and that I am comfortable with and happy with and that's been with me for a long time. So there's a couple of things on the list that everyone would automatically guess. And if you're thinking, oh, he's just going to go for those things, then yes, you're right, I am, because they're my staples. That's what I do. And they're how I start my close-up sets, and that's so I've put them on just because if I didn't, everyone would be like, well, surely he's going to put that on there. So I have put that on there, but there are some other stuff on there that maybe people won't know or won't think that I do that I absolutely love. So yeah, and I've kind of gone for a bit of close-up, a bit of parlor, cabaret, and a bit of stage as well. So because I do all of them, I've gone for a mix of kind of different types of performing. But there is a running theme, as you can imagine, with what I do. And most of it is just that it's really fun to perform because I'm all about, as you know, I'm all about the performance over the technical ability of the trick. So the vast majority of what I do is heavily performance based. And that's reflected in my list for sure, I think.
So maybe we need to play Matt Bingo. Maybe everyone listening now needs to come up with maybe 3 things that they think are going to be on your list before we begin. So you've got
I pretty much guarantee that everyone will get 2 of them at least.
Well, you've got about 20 seconds, all right, because we got like the little intro bit to come up with your list at home and see how many of them you ticked off. And what's amazing is if you tick them all off, Craig Petty has said he will send you 10 English pounds if you get it right. He said it, not me. So each of you will get 10 English pounds if you get them right.
Nice. That's very generous of him.
It is very generous of him. So if this is your first time listening, the idea is that we're about to maroon Matt on his own desert island. When he's there, he's allowed to take 8 tricks, 1 book, and 1 non-magic item that he uses for magic. Particulars like who's there, what's there, has he buried Craig Petty on the island somewhere? That good stuff is all in Matt's own imagination. We do not mind. It's basically the ultimate list of tricks that he could not live without. So that being said, Matt, let's get into it. What did you put in your first position?
First one is not going to be a surprise to anybody. It is my Anverdi Die. I love this thing. It is the best thing that I've ever used. It was one of the first things that I ever did performing after the being dragged down to smoke and mirrors on the first time I ever did close-up magic. I was then introduced to the Anverdi Die after that, and since then it's just been a staple of what I do. It's the perfect opener for the kind of sets that I do when I'm doing close-up magic. If I can just walk up to a table, it's short, it's sharp, it's snappy. You just throw somebody a die, they can examine it, they can lick it if they want to. You know what I mean? You can do anything you want with that die. It's not going to give anything away. It is the cleanest thing that you can possibly do. And the way that I've got the routine in down now, I could make that. If I went up and wanted to do a 15-minute, 20-minute set at a table, at a cabaret style table at a corporate event, I could easily do a full 15, 20 minutes with just that die. It's like you could just keep that going for as long as you want to. It is such an incredible thing, and it's so reliable. And people just don't. It's something that people don't get given. Like if you walk up to a table and say, hi, I'm a magician, you take out a deck of cards, a lot of people are just like, oh, it's another magician. Because every magician walks up to a table and takes out a deck of cards. And doing the corporate circuit and doing weddings and so on and so forth, you can you have I've realized very, very quickly when I've started doing this that not everybody is Jamie Dawes. Not everybody is Craig Petty, and there are a lot of magicians that are out there that are just trying to do it for pocket money or whatever. So you get a lot of people that come to you and go, "Oh, are you doing a card trick?" And it's like, actually, no, I'm not. Have a look at this, and then you give them a die, and people are like, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's a die," and they're like, "Well, what do I do with that?" And then you go through the routine with them, and you just, because it's something they're not expecting, it's something that's a little bit different, it just blows people away. um and the routining that I've got with that now, I've been doing it for that long that it just flows out of me, and the spiel that I've got that goes with it, and getting people, I'm like, by the end of it, I've got one person sitting down on a chair and the rest of the table are all standing up and they're crowded around me and they're looking for what I'm looking for. And and people are doing it for me. I've had people that are doing this for me by the end of it, and what I'm doing is a complete lie, but I've had people doing stuff for me that and they're like, it's getting, drags people into the, so you've got a whole table that are then in on the routine. They're all in on what's happening, and it's a fully inclusive thing to be able to use. And it's so simple, and it couldn't be any simpler than it is. And it just allows you to focus solely on the routine of what you're doing, and it's all performance based, and that's perfect for me. So I could not do close up magic without an Anverdi Die. No, I don't think. Even if I don't actually use it, it's always in my pocket, and it's that thing that I've got that I know that if anything goes wrong, or I'm losing an audience, or I'm not performing as well as I could do that day, if I put my hand in my pocket and my Anverdi Die's there, I know I'm going to be okay, because I'm going to be able to pull that out and then just blow people away. So that is number one on my list. That, and I know that a lot of people in Matt Bingo will have been expecting that to be there, and it is. And I'm quite happy for Craig to send people a tenner if they get it because they guessed the Anverdi Die's there, because it's that's never going away. I don't think. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's a great one. But at the beginning, you mentioned that you do a good mixture of like Parlor and close up. Is it one that you've used in Parlor? Because I've seen so many people use it in that way.
I have. There's a guy, I went to the Curious Cabaret that Chris Wilder runs over in Nottingham, and there was a guy called Klaus Fantastisch. He's like a comedy magician, and he is hilarious. I went with Drew Perry, and he was like, this guy, Klaus Fantastisch, is hilarious. You're going to love him. And he comes out on stage and he pretends to be German, and he's got this big blonde wig on, and he's got this shirt that's unbuttoned down, and he's all very dramatic and very Vegas, but in a German accent. He's not German. He's English, but he does this accent really, really well. And he's got this suitcase that he opens up. And when he opens the suitcases up, he's got 5 different types of sausage stuck to the inside of this suitcase, and then he gets a guy to come up and he's trying to pick 1 to 5 which sausage it is, roll the die, and whatever the number is, pick up that sausage, and then he kind of reads their minds and tell them what sausage they're holding. And it's this whole routine with, and he's getting them to roll a die, but he puts this, he's supposed to have this really fancy blindfold, but he doesn't have a blindfold, so he ends up putting this little bag on his head. And obviously the little bag is, I mean, I can't tell how it works. Can't tell you how it works, but I mean, the little bag is very important. And then he's telling them what sausage he's holding, and he gets 2 guys up on stage and tells them what sausages they're both holding, while he's standing there with his German accent and a bag on his head. And I'm just like, that is the most imaginative way of using that product that you could possibly imagine. He's just taken what can be portrayed as quite a serious mentalism piece and just thrown it into this crazy, high energy, hilarious routine. And I was in pain. Drew kept looking at me and just going, "I told you." And I was laughing that much. I was in agony watching him do that. So I've never used it on stage, but I have seen it used on stage, and it's very, it works. It absolutely works. Close is brilliant.
Well, that's a great opening gambit, and it excites me for where you're going to go. So what did you put in your second position?
Okay, so the second position is normally what I go to after I've done my Anverdi Die, which again is one of the first things that I was taught when we were learning on the channel and stuff. And it's one of them things that's just stuck with me. And it's a deck of cards, but it just so happens to be in the Stebbins stack, which again, people are going to be falling off their seats with surprise right now. But yeah, any deck of cards in Stebbins stack and the possibilities that you've got to go through, the possibilities that you've got with just a step, short of just doing the standard thing that you can do. There's so many things that you can do with that deck, but I mean, just doing the standard easy routine with it it's just mind blowing. People just don't get it, and I've found that if you go straight in with a deck of cards, everyone's like, oh, he's a magician. If you go in with the Anverdi Die first, and you've already proven that you can do this kind of thing, by the time you go, okay, but that's a 1 in 6 shot. So there is a strong possibility I can guess that right some of the time. I'll make it a little bit harder. This is a 1 in 52. And by the time you've brought the cards out, you're not a magician anymore. You are doing something that they've got no idea how you're doing. It's not a trick. Do you know what I mean? They think that you're a genius at this point. So by the time you brought the cards out, nobody's focusing on the cards because the cards aren't important. They're not like, because when you just pull out a deck of cards, people will be like, oh, can I shuffle them? Oh, can I have a look at them? Oh, can I do this? Can I do that? And they're asking you questions and trying to trick you up. But if you pull a deck of cards out after you've used the die, those questions disappear. People don't ask you anymore because it's not about the deck of cards. It's at that point, you're so far into the routine and you've sucked them in so much into what you're doing that the questions are out of the window and they're just sitting there in awe of what you're doing. So I think that the two of them together to open any close-up set is, for what I do and the way that I do it and the way that I perform it, is perfect. So the second one is the Si Stebbins stack.
So if you could only do one routine with your deck, what would it be?
You just get them to pick a card and then psycho babble, analyze them a bit and tell them what the card is. It's the simplest routine that you can do with it. I don't know if I mean, you know how that works, obviously. It's that. But I know this isn't on video, but that. And that's the simplest and easiest routine to do with a 7 stack. And again, if I had nothing else and I turned up at a gig and my car had caught fire on the way there and everything I had was burnt to shreds and all of my clothes were tattered and I had to stop at a petrol station and get a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, but they just so happened to have a deck of cards there as well. If I had time to put that into a Stebbins stack, I could quite easily do a 2-hour close-up gig with just a Stebbins deck. And it's that good. Like the way that you can perform it, the way that you can use it and the way it sucks people in. It's just using the very bog standard basic pick card. It's this one is phenomenally powerful if you perform it in the right way. When I take cards to a gig, I've normally got 2 or 3 on me. So I've got like 1 in Stebbins stack. Sometimes I've got a spare 1 in Stebbins. If I'm going to like a military base or something where those guys can get pretty rowdy, or I'm going to like a wedding that's in the evening, so I know that everybody's already had a drink, I'll sometimes take a spare Stebbins deck with me because if somebody snatches at it and throws it on the floor, you're done. So I'll have a spare one. But then I've also normally got another couple of decks of cards in my other pocket. It's normally Providence decks. So I've just got a bunch of Providence decks in my pockets because they look phenomenal and they work great. So yeah, I've got obviously the normal card tricks that people do. I've got an ambitious card routine out of this. Back in Time, actually. Back in Time is a really good one because I've got a really good story for that. And a lot of what I do is like storytelling. So if I do want to do, and I'm feeling in the mood to do an actual card trick, I'll normally do, it's super simple, obviously. Nothing I do is crazy complicated, like technicality wise, as far as actually doing the trick. Out of this, Back in Time is what? Like, I can't even say what it is, can I? But it's really really simple to do. It's not a difficult card trick. There's only a couple of moves, but the story that I've got that goes with that is I can make that card trick last about 4.5 minutes, just because of the story that goes with it. So, but yeah, I've normally got 3 or 4 decks of cards on me when I'm doing close up.
Nice. And just looking at your list so far, so I know we've only had 2. So we've got Anverdi Dice, but and a Stebbins stack deck, but with a Mentalism flavour. So far, yes, we're going heavy Mentalism.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I do. That's what I prefer to do. That's my thing. Because as far as I'm concerned, Mentalism is more about storytelling than it is. If you look at a lot of the best Mentalism tricks in the world, they're not technically difficult to do. and it leaves you massively open to interpretation as far as presentation and stuff goes. And I think it's because mentalists are storytellers, and that's kind of that's where I came from. I'm a theatre bunny and I'm an actor, and that's kind of my thing is telling stories. So I much prefer to put a lot of the time into the presentation rather than what I've got to do to make the trick work. Because if I'm concentrating really hard on what I've got to do to make the trick work, the presentation's going to suffer a little bit. So I normally go for stuff that I can do quite easily, but it means that I can go heavy on the sell. And Nem says this to me all the time, Nem Ed Phoenix, whenever we're out gigging together. We've gigged together a few times over Christmas. And he's like, you're doing the simplest things in the world, but all I'm hearing is like tables of people applauding you all around the room. Because when we go and do gigs together, like we'll normally pick a side of the room each, and then we'll just meet in the middle when we're done. And he'll go, all night, all I've heard is people clapping and cheering. And I know what you're doing. I know, and it's the simplest things in the world that you're doing. But all of these people are clapping and cheering and standing up and gesturing you back over and getting their friends to come over and look at what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm putting the effort into selling it well. So I think as far as gigging's concerned, when you're a professional gigging magician, whether you are doing, like, audiences don't care if you're doing really technical stuff. They just want to be entertained. Military bases, they don't care what you're doing as long as you're entertaining them and you're having a laugh with them while you're doing it. So yeah, because I've came into the whole magic thing really late. I mean, I've still only been doing magic it's less than 3 years, I think I've been doing magic for. So and I'm getting to do cool stuff like this and talking to people like you, which is amazing. But because I haven't come from sitting in magic for 30 years and learning everything there is to know and learning all of these moves and then being able to apply them and stuff, I haven't got that. So, and I didn't have time when I first started because I was just thrown in at the deep end, and I was out within a couple of weeks. I was out performing with people like Nem Ed Phoenix and Craig Petty and Tom Mullinger, and it's just all of these guys, and I'm walking into gigs alongside them and having to hold my own really, really quickly. So I just naturally gravitated towards mentalism because it's more about the presentation. And when it comes to presentation, I'm at much less of a disadvantage than everybody else, than anything else that magicians do. So yeah, it is all mentalism and it's all really simple, but it's all stuff that I do and I know that it works. So that's why it's on my list.
So that gives us a little teaser going forward so we can guess what you're going to go for. So what did you put in your third spot?
Okay, my third spot is because of you. You opened me a few months ago. You opened me up to a whole new world of stuff, and it was something that I'd seen. I was talking to Pete Turner at Blackpool, not last year, the year before, and he was talking about doing this kind of stuff, and it just blew me away. And I was just like, oh my god, that's amazing. And then I managed to find, thanks to the wonderful Alaka Pham, a download called Mind Over Mentalism by this incredible mentalist called Jamie Dawes. And then I was lucky enough to be able to just text Jamie Dawes and ask him about this stuff. And then based off of that conversation, I instantly ordered a bunch of packs of loops. And have been absolutely obsessed with this stuff ever since. So number 3 on my list is PK Touches. And I don't know how many different things I'm allowed to say within the PK Touches genre of performance, but loops is fantastic. So anything with loops is amazing. The routine that you do on your Mind Over Mentalism download is phenomenally good. But we've also got the chairs, the PK Touch chairs. So we've done that a few times as well over the Christmas period. And it's just the reactions that people get. It's the closest I've come so far to feeling like Darren Brown on a stage. Doing the PK Touch stuff on a stage with the chairs is just amazing. It's mind-blowing. And the gasps and stuff that you get. Because the thing with being a mentalist, especially going around tables and stuff, you do get it sometimes. You have to work really, really hard for it. But you do get the rounds of applause and and the whoops and the hollers and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't happen every time, because a lot of the time in mentalism, people are more stunned than anything else. They're sitting there trying to figure out what's just happened. So you don't get that big reaction, and a lot of the time. But with the PK touch chairs, it's the same thing. You don't get the massive rapturous standing ovation, but what you get is to look out over the audience after you finish the routine, and everybody is just sitting there wide-eyed with their jaws on the floor, trying to process what the hell they've just seen. And it's the same with when you're using the loops and doing like the stuff that you do. I'm still working on it, and I've got a feeling, and I said this to you before, this is going to be something that I'm going to be working on for years. It's not the kind of thing you can just pick up overnight and get done. I've got a couple of really short routines that I do with it at the moment because I'm still working on it. But even with the couple of really short, simple routines that I've got that I'm doing with it at the moment, the reactions have been phenomenal, and it's very quickly becoming my favorite thing to do. The chairs that we use are now my favorite thing that we do in our illusion show with me and Craig. It just makes me feel good to get up on stage or do close up and perform anything PK touch based. So number 3 is PK touches, because it is, and will be for quite a long time, I would imagine, my favorite thing to perform.
Yeah, it just gets a reaction like I've not seen from another trick. Personally,
it really does, doesn't
personally.
it? Yeah, I'm going to be doing that for a really long time, and it's thanks to you. So thank you for helping me with getting into that, because it is one of them things where you look at it. And even as a magician that's been performing professionally for a couple of years, it was one of those things that I just looked at and thought, there's no way. There's no way. It's going to be one of them ridiculously difficult things that I'm not going to have the dexterity for it, or I'm not going to have there's no way I'm not going to have the skill to do it. And then you just went, you're going to be able to do that. You'll be fine. And I was like, okay, let's do it. But yeah, like I said, I'm still working on it as we speak, but it's one of those things that just leaves people stunned. And I know exactly what you mean about being able to walk away from a table and the table's silent. I do that with a couple of different routines that I do. There's one of them that I do using an app. And it allows me to do the routine and walk away from the table. And then it's normally kind of 10, 15 seconds before anything happens on the table, because everyone's just sitting there looking at each other, and they're looking, and it's everyone's just kind of looking around before they even realize that you're gone. And by the time they realize you're gone, you're on the other side of the room. And then what happens is everyone will stand up, because if it's a big function and there's like 30 tables, everyone kind of stands up and they're looking for you. And if you can make it so that you're walking towards the booker, and you get the booker's attention as an entire table of people stand up 20 feet behind you and go, there he is, oh my God. And they're like clapping you and stuff, trying to get your attention. It just makes you look like a god in front of the booker. So I found that if you can time that right, that's a really good way of getting the booker to realize that you're doing a cracking job at that gig. So, but yeah, the loops and the PK touches and any of those routines that you teach on your download, they're going to be a staple in my set, close up and stage, for a long time. It's amazing. So yeah, that's a big number 3 on the list.
Well, that leads us very nicely into number 4. So what did you put in your 4th position?
Okay, so in my 4th position, I put Billets and a Sharpie, right? Now, I know the rules of this. I know that you're going to ask me specifically what routines that I want to do with said Billets and Sharpies, because I do listen to the podcast. So Billets and a Sharpie, there are a multitude of things that you can do with Billets and a Sharpie. I always use the thin, fine tip Sharpies, not the big fat ones, because I know use the standard size billet cards that come from your competitor that I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the name of or not. I get the 1914, they're Billets. So I use those because they're perfect for what I need. And then the fine tip Sharpies and stuff. There's loads and loads and loads of things that you can do with a simple piece of card and a Sharpie pen. But the main thing that I do is again from the 1914. It's Alex Marshy's Billy Peak, which is based off of Acidus Novus, but it's not. It's slightly different. And it's on his Billet Masterclass download. Alexander Marshall, Alex Marshall, Alex Buckley, whatever we call him, whatever you want to call him. From that dude. And I was lucky enough again to go to the Curious Cabaret, Chris Wilder's deal, and he has a thing on Mondays now where he gets magicians to come in and teach little masterclasses in person. And I got to meet Alex doing one of those. I also got to see him perform live. We performed. Where were we? We were at a magic convention, and I was teching for Ryland. Where were we? Was it Tyneside? It might have been Tyneside. And we were teching for, I was teching for Ryland, and Ryland was in the Gala show, and Alex was in the Gala show. So I got to hang out backstage with Alex for a while. He's such a lovely bloke. I've got a lot of respect for Alex. He's amazing. And I got to watch him perform. And a lot of his stage show was literally just done with a pocket full of billets and some brown envelopes. And it's so clever. And I'm watching him doing it, knowing how he does what he does. And I'm still impressed because it's so simple, but it just fools everyone. No one's got a clue what he's doing. So there's a few different things that I use billets and little brown envelopes and Sharpies for. But his version of Acidus Novus is definitely that's definitely big for me. Also, I use that, and this ties into something that I'm going to say later on as well. But I did a company called Bar Juice. They're one of the biggest vape juice companies in the country. They contacted us, and they were doing the vape show at the NEC. This was in October last year. And they wanted a magician to come out. So I was speaking to the guy and booked it in, ended up doing it myself because I'm a vapor and I've worked at the vape show at the NEC a few times before, doing various different things. So I ended up going, and they wanted me to do close-up magic just on the stand, just to kind of keep people on the stand and kind of help promote the brand and all that kind of stuff. And then they wanted me to do a 45-minute stage show in the middle of the day. And they went, is there any possible way that you can brand some of the tricks? And I was like, well, what POS have you got? What merchandise have you got? What kind of advertising things have you got with you that's already done? And what they had was an A4 piece of card with a picture and a little bio of every bar juice they have, every vape juice flavor they have. And there happened to be 41 of them. And I was like, that couldn't be much more perfect. Give me a few of those. So they gave me one of these cards, and I numbered them all 1 to 41. And then I would walk around. The first thing I did, he was like, can I come and just check you out for 5 minutes? Like when I first started on the stand on the first day, I had the owner of Bar Juice following me around the stand, watching what I was doing. And I was like, yeah, of course, no worries. So I'd hand people this piece of card with all of the vape juice flavors on it, numbered 1 to 41. I'd get them to pick not necessarily their favorite one, but one that jumps out at them, one that they're going to be able to sense, that they can taste, that they can smell, one that they're going to be able to kind of connect to this particular flavor. And then I'd get them to write the number down on a little piece of white card and put it in an envelope and put it in their top pocket. And then I would read them and figure out which bar juice was their favorite bar juice. And it was blowing people away. People were just freaking out. The boss, he was like, how the hell do you do that? And I'm like, it's magic. Like, I'm good at reading people. It's like, whatever. And it was just a really good way of kind of doing what the customer wanted. He wanted branded magic. And then, like, based off of that, you could do that with anything. So any company that now comes to us and wants, we can say to them, well, you know, we could do branded magic for your event and blah, 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 blah. Because if they've got products that they're selling, you can easily put a number on them and then you can tell people what they're thinking of. And it's just a fantastic tool in order to be able to go and do things like that. And then again, there's another one on my list where I'll go through that later because it's later on the list. But yeah, that is, I mean, it just worked so well. But doing that in close up, and you can use it on stage, and you can do whatever. It's a really simple thing to do. It takes a little bit of practice to get it slick, but it's not difficult to do. And it's so powerful because again, it puts all of the weight of the act goes onto the presentation because the move itself is what, half a second, and then everything else is based on the presentation and how you can spin it. And if you can spin it properly, then it just wipes people out. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's such a good point to make that sometimes we need techniques in our sort of mental toolbox for those moments where, like you just said, you're put on the spot and you need to make something bespoke. And I guarantee that they'll probably look at hiring you again if they haven't already, because now they know that
they already have.
Yeah, there you go. Because that in that moment, you just showed that you could make everything bespoke to them and help advertise them more. You know, it's such a great thing to be able to do, just to pluck that from your brain and go, oh, well, I've got that technique. That'd be great for that.
Well, I have got, I did make a phone call to a good friend of mine called John Morton. And he, excuse me, he helped me out with the idea. But yeah, it was pretty much, they told me, and then we had to scramble and do something quick. And I just called John and went, John, help me. And then he just kind of calmed me down. And then he went, what have you got? And I was like, well, I've got this. I could do this with it. And he went, perfect, just do that. And I'm like, okay, great. But yeah, I can't take all the credit for that. It's definitely John helped me out. But yeah, it's amazing and it's so versatile and you can do anything with it. And that's going to be with me for a really long time because, like I said, the next time a customer says, is there any way you can brand something? I've got two instantaneous ways of just branding stuff to people that I know will work, and they're really impressive and they're good routines and I know them inside out. So I'm not going to be out of my comfort zone by doing something completely bespoke on the spot. So with that, it's perfect. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. Number 4, Billets, Sharpie, and some little brown envelopes from Amazon.
So I wonder how everyone's doing with Matt Bingo. I wonder if everyone has filled those 3 spots and is £10 richer from Craig Petty. That does bring us to number 5. So what did you put in your 5th position?
Right, this is where we start going more stage. And it's because it is a staple of our illusion show that we do, even though it's not really an illusion, but it is a staple of what we do. And I just love performing it. I just love it. It's so clever. And it's just got that air of mystery around it. And it's a great way to start a show, to the point where when Killian and Ryland did their tour in the summer, this was how the show, before the show started, this was pointed out. And we basically, me and Reese Morgan, who were doing all the tech for the show, but me and Reese set it up, the tour with Ryland and Killian, so that there was a spot that just came off LX1, which is the lighting rig across the front of the stage. And that was basically pointed directly at this thing for the entire show. And then it was one of the very last things that was done at the end of the second act of the show. And we did it on New Year's Eve. It was same thing again, just highlight it at the start of the show, and then it just sits there. And it's just that Darren's done it as well. It's also been done on Britain's Got Talent and America's Got Talent, and people have done it all over the place. But it is the master prediction system, and I love it. It creates that air of mystery in a room. And then it gets to the point where I do my specific routine that I do with it, where I talk a lot about my tattoos and how all of my tattoos are memories, which they are. Every single tattoo that I've got is a memory that I collect. And I base it on facts, because when you base things like that on facts, it just flows out easier. And then if you get asked questions later on, they're easy to answer because you're not lying to people. So all of my tattoos are memories. And my presentation of the master prediction system is that it's all about my memories that I've collected around the world, and I want to create a memory together with everybody in the room. And then I'll say, but I couldn't possibly know what you guys have just shouted out off the tops of your heads, could I? And everyone's like, no, of course not. That'd be impossible, wouldn't it? Yes, of course it would. But I did know, and I can prove it. And then you take a couple of really slow steps backwards towards this box that's hanging from a chain on the corner of the stage, and then you just look at it. And as you look at the box, everybody in the audience just goes, oh, and you just get that audible intake of breath from an entire room of people, because all of a sudden they've realized what's happening. They now know what's going to happen, but they can't believe it. So they know some information. They know that you're going to take that box off, you're going to open that box, and you're going to prove to them that you knew from the very start of the show, before they even entered the room, what they were going to choose. But that's not possible. So we're not going to believe that that's going to happen, because it can't. It's not true. But they know it's going to happen anyway, and it's very confusing for the audience. So you would then open the box, you take out the scroll, and you show them that you knew exactly what they were going to say before they even entered the building. And the round of applause that you get from that particular, I know obviously everyone's going to have seen it when Darren did it. And the round of applause that you get is just looking out over people's faces, and they're just gobsmacked. They've got no idea. We had it on New Year's Eve, 300 and something odd people in a room. They didn't have a clue. They were just gobsmacked at how you could possibly know this information. And it's so clean. And it's brilliant. I love it. If I was on a desert island, that would definitely be hanging from a palm tree somewhere, to use whenever I wanted it. But yeah, Master Prediction System number 5. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, and it's another one that is so adaptable to different performances. Like you just said, so many people have done a version of it. And you can just adapt it to any performance that you're doing, any show that you're doing, even if you're doing, this time of the year, a pantomime. It's so adaptable.
Yeah, you could do it as a comedy piece. You can do it as magic. You can do it as mentalism. You can do it serious. You can theme it. You can whatever presentation your heart desires. You can make it work with that little tool. And it's phenomenal. I love it. I love performing it.
Hello guys, I'm here to talk to you about Alakazam Unlimited. This is the best streaming platform in the world, I'm telling you now. With Alakazam Unlimited, you get access to over 150 magic routines. This is video performances and explanations. We have card magic, coin magic, kids magic, rope magic, mentalism, stage, parlor, impromptu. We've got you covered. All of this for the low price of just £4.99 a month, and you can cancel at any time. Perfect if you've got commitment issues. Yes, I'm talking to you. Guys, you are going to absolutely love it. If you haven't joined the platform already, what the heck are you doing? Alakazam Unlimited is a streaming platform that you need to be a part of. Not only that, there is also exclusive content only available on the platform. Check it out now, alakazam.co.uk. Cheers.
Well, that brings us nicely to number 6. So what did you put in your 6th spot?
See, this is a tricky one, Jamie. I have 3 in this spot, right? Now, I know, because I listened to the podcast, that I'm allowed some honorary mentions, but I don't know how to separate them. So there's 3 on here, and I'm going to say 3. And if you want to take 2 of them as an honorable mention, you can. But you can pick which ones are honorable mentions. So we have Imposter by John Morton, Psychology by Luca Volpe, and Bane by Your Good Self. Now, all 3 of them are very similar in the fact that you get 5 people up on stage and you make them look silly. The way that I do it, anyway. But they've all got benefits for... Each one of them's got its own benefit as far as presentation and visually on stage, and they've all got pros. But I love performing all of them, so I'm not going to pick which. I know that you're looking at me going, "You've got to pick one." I don't want to pick one. I love all of them, and they've all got different possibilities for different things. See, Psychology. I did that with I did that at the NEC as well, because inside each glass I put a vape juice. So even though they didn't win, they still got a vape juice for free to take away with them. So that were I wouldn't have been able to do that with something like Imposter. So But then imposter, I can do that close up as well. So if I've got that little black tube in my pocket, I can do close up with that. I can do stage with that. I can do parlor with that. I can do whatever. It's really versatile. But then Bane visually on stage with the cocktail shakers and stuff, it just looks amazing. And the routine that you came up with is just brilliant. It's fantastic. So all three of them have their pros, and I love all three of them equally. And I use all three of them depending on the kind of client that it is and depending on the kind of gig that I'm doing. So I don't want to choose between them, Jamie. Yeah, I can't choose between the three, dude, and I'm not going to do it. You can't make me.
The problem is everyone who is playing Map Bingo and has just won £10 from Craig Petty, you have just incurred a tax now, which now takes that £10 away from everyone that's listening, and now everyone gets nothing.
Yeah, well, I would say I'm sorry, everybody, but I'm not, because I want my tricks with me. So yeah, Craig will give it you anyway. He'll be fine. Just keep emailing him until he sends you the money.
Yeah, each of those is great. Luca Volpe's routine is so clever, so well constructed. Imposter, I love. And John, well, we're not allowed to say, but if anyone's listened to his episode, will know the phrase "under the table." That's all we need to talk about. If you like that, and I'm very biased for Bane, because
Obviously.
like you, I'm all about the presentation. So with Bane, it was presentation first, method second, for me. But the whole getting people to die on stage was one of those things that the first time I did it, I was like, yeah, this is the thing.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's so clever. I remember watching that and just thinking, oh my God, this guy's good. He's so good. And you can't make me choose between them, Jamie. It's not going to happen.
I mean, I'm not going to make you choose them, but just remember that everyone hates you now before the £10 being taken away from them. But it does lead us on to the tail end of your 8. So what did you put in at number 7?
Number 7, I've put in, and this was the other thing that I did at the NEC, actually. So I put in Sneak Thief. I was introduced to this by a good mate of mine, and Sneak Thief is incredible. It's so simple. Everything that I do, as you can see from the list, everything I do is designed purely around being able to present the hell out of it and not having to do a great deal of work magically. So Sneak Thief, again, it's super simple. It's just a fantastic tool, again, to be able to use. And the same thing again. So this was another one that I did at the NEC. I had 5 boards. I had 5 of the same cards, but I didn't number them. So I had the cards with the 41 different vape juices on them, and I just got 5 pieces of polystyrene from John Morton, who'd given me a stack of these polystyrene boards to practice doing Sneak Thief. And then I stuck the card that they had with all the vape juices on it, one on each board, one on each of the 5 boards, handed them out to the people. Got them to look at the back of the board with all of the vape juices on it, then flip the board over and write which one was their favourite vape juice, and then obviously did the routine. But then I said to them, if we get them right, the vape juice that you've put down, which is your favourite flavour, you get to go to the back of the stand and pick up your favourite vape juice, and you can have one for free. So it was an incentive to them to not screw me over, but also it was all inclusive with the rest of the audience, because we had some like promo girls on the stand, and I had them coming over, and we were asking questions, and then we were trying to look at people's reactions and stuff. And it was really weird, because out of the 4 questions that we had to ask the 5 people, 2 of the promo girls came up, and I'd ask the question, ask them what they thought, and they got it right, which was even more fooling. Because the one that got it wrong, I then had to kind of direct them into the direction that I wanted them to go. But 2 out of the 4 girls just nailed it straight off the back, which made it so much more fooling than it ever would be again, because they just fluked getting it right. And the owner came over to me afterwards, and he went, "That couldn't have been any more perfect." That's exactly what we wanted. You've got everyone talking about the different flavours. You've got people standing there while they're writing their flavours down, with everybody looking at all the other flavours that we do on our POS that's on the back of the board that we've given you. You've got the entire audience. There was thousands of people at this event, and I've got a microphone on. Our booth is smack bang in the middle of the hall. I'm on a microphone, so we've got literally hundreds and hundreds of people in 360 around me, which was again one of the reasons that you can't do certain things, because I was effectively performing in the round to all of these hundreds of people that were 360 around me. So you can't. There's nothing you can do where you've got to have your back to the audience or whatever. And this just worked so well in that scenario. The book out, the owner of the company absolutely loved it. The audience went, because I just basically said, if we've got it right, hold your board up in the air on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. All 5 of them held their board up in the air. Obviously, they were correct. We got them right. The whole audience went absolutely crazy. All the 5 people that helped me out got a free bar juice. 2 of the promo girls were skipping and dancing and cartwheeling back onto the stand because they'd helped me and they got it right. Everyone was happy. Everyone's a winner. And it's the simplest method, which I know we're not allowed to talk about, but it's the simplest method. You couldn't get much simpler than that. If you have the use of your eyes, you can do this trick. It's so simple. So yeah, and it's so versatile. You can do this close up. You can do it with, I've done it with billets. You can do it close up. You can do it on stage. You can do it parlor, cabaret. You can do it anywhere. And it takes very little to do it. I've now ordered, which I've had for a while now. I think I just ordered them off Amazon, and you can just get like A4 sized whiteboards. Which are just little, there's no frames on them or anything. It's literally just pieces of whiteboard that are like 5 mil thick. And I just ordered it. You get a pack of 10 of them for like 15 quid or something off Amazon. And if you get a pack of 10, you've got 2 lot, but I mean, you can just use them over and over and over and over again because they're whiteboards. You just wipe them off. And it's the simplest thing in the world. And you can just, takes no space in the car. You've got a 15-minute stage routine with 5 pieces of whiteboard and 5 Sharpies. Like, what's not to love? So yeah, number 7, Sneak Thief.
Yeah, I mean, looking at your entire list, it's such an adaptable list. You know, you've got Anverdi Dice, you've got your Billets and Sharpie, you've got the Master Prediction System, you've got Imposter, Bane, and Psychology, and now Sneak Thief as well. All of those are just such adaptable routines that you really can put into any show and any circumstance. And we've spoken about Sneak Thief quite a few times on the podcast before. There's some great versions.
I know it's been brought up, yeah.
Thief in the Dark, Mark Spellman. One of my favourite ones of late was Andy Nyman's from his lecture notes, which uses mobile phones, which is just a phenomenal version. It's such an adaptable... Again, it's one of those routines that you just have to have it in your mental toolbox. Have it there, and then it's ready to go whenever you need it.
Absolutely, 100%, yeah. And it's, like you say, everything, because I work a lot, I do a lot of gigs. I don't even know how many gigs I did last year. 60-something, 70-something gigs. It's ridiculous. And a lot of them are stage, a lot of them are parlour, cabaret and stuff. In order to be able to do that, you've got to have stuff that you can adapt. You've got to have stuff that if a customer turns around to you and says, is there any possible way that you can kind of brand that for me? You've got to have stuff that you're still comfortable doing. You haven't got to go away and practice for a couple of weeks and write an entire new script for. And you can do it and you can adapt it and you can do it there and then. And a lot of those that are on there, you can. It's really adaptable. It works with everyone. And if need be, I could do Anverdi Die on stage. I could do Stebbins Stack on stage if need be. Loops and PK touches, you can do that anywhere. That's parlour, that's close up, that's stage, that's whatever. Billets and Sharpies, close up, stage, parlour, whatever you want to do. The only one you can't really do close up is the Master Prediction System. But I do know a couple of people are working on that, so maybe soon. But yeah, everything is kind of, it's adaptable. It's what I do every day, and everything that I've learned over the last couple of years with doing magic, these are the things that I have properly fallen in love with and will do till the day I die.
Well, that leads us on to number 8, which I'm excited to hear. So what did you manage to sneak into your last position?
Sneaking into, I was kind of umming and ahhing about what to do with a few of these things because there's way more that I could put on there. I wanted to put my apps on there because there's a couple of apps that I use that I do regularly, and they're a big part of my set, and I absolutely love them. But then I was just like, I wanted to put something that's a little bit different on there, something that people might not necessarily expect.
Well, don't forget you've got honourable mentions. So why don't you go for the weird one,
right.
but then use your apps as your honourable mentions?
Okay, so there's two. And I can see Jamie getting increasingly more annoyed with me.
Well, the thing is, the next tax that comes is everyone has to pay Craig £10. So it's just getting worse.
So I might have to decide between the two. But they are illusions. Two of our illusions from the show. So I've got the split press and the crystal casket, which are two of the illusions that we do. And I love them. And they are so much fun. But then I was also thinking, if we had illusions on a desert island, it would be instant shelter because you can just get inside. We could make stuff out of them. We'd have like resources and stuff that we could take things off and make other things out of them and so on. So yeah, so I think an illusion would be really handy to have on a desert island. But also, they're just so much fun. And I was performing illusions on stage before I did my first close-up gig. So the first thing that I did magic-wise was get on stage and perform a bunch of illusions. So they're a big part of they're a big part of my magic journey, and they're a huge part of what I've done. And Craig felt more comfortable sticking me on stage doing illusions because of my theatre background, and I was more comfortable on stage doing stuff like that than I was going out and doing close-up magic. So my magic career started by doing illusions on stage. So I can't do a list of things that I can't live without putting a couple of illusions on there, really. So split press is probably my favorite one, and it's only my favorite one because the music we do it to is rock music. So I love doing that one because we get to put a bit of rock music into a magic show. And the crystal casket, because it's just phenomenal. We start every show with the crystal casket, we end every show with the split press. So yeah, an illusion would be number 8.
So I'm not going to let you take both, right? I let you do it one time. All right, I've let you do it once before. So if you were to take one, which one would it be?
Oh, crystal casket. Let's go crystal casket. Presentationally, with the crystal casket, we've got more versatility with that, so we can do different things with it, and we use it in kids shows, and we can turn it into a kids trick. If we're doing like family fun days and things like that, we can take that down and we can make it into the magic sweet machine where Cat disappears and then Cat comes back and she's holding a bunch of bags of sweets to hand out to the kids and stuff like that. And when we're doing the show and we're doing it with Ryland, we've decided that for 20 minutes before the start of the show, we just stick Ryland in the box and then wheel him out into the middle of the stage, and he can't do anything for 20 minutes. So I like that one purely because we get rid of Ryland for 20 minutes at the start of every show. So yeah, let's go crystal casket.
Well, that's a great ending effect, and probably one that no one was expecting. But did you want to talk about the apps as well? Do you want to do your honourable mentions?
Yeah. So the ones I've got loads and loads of apps. There's all the apps that Lloyd's done. I've got those. The main two that I use because they're just phenomenal is DFB Pro, obviously, because if anybody doesn't know what DFB Pro is, what are you doing? There's so much stuff you can do with that. And that is when you were talking earlier about PK touches being the trick where you can do something and walk away from the table and then you wait for the reaction because it takes that long to sink in. The trick that I do with DFB Pro is that trick that I do now, where I can walk away from the table, walk towards the booker, give it 10 seconds, and then everyone stands up and starts clapping because it takes them that long for it to sink in what has just happened right in front of their eyes. And it's DFB that I use for that. And Toxic, because who would ever want to go and do a stage show and not do Toxic? But you can do it close up, you can do it on stage, you can do it anywhere that hasn't got a camera pointed at you. It's just phenomenal, and it melts people, it blows people away. I did it recently at a corporate event in Birmingham City Centre, and they were another vape company. Actually, my name is getting around in the vape world as being a good magician, so I'm hoping that kind of carries on snowballing. But it was another vape company. And it was their Christmas party. There was about 250 people there. And I had to jump up on this thing where the DJ was. And she wanted me to do a trick to everybody, and she just stuck a microphone in my face, and I was like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do? Oh, I've got my phone on me. Done." Who doesn't take their phone around with them? So even if you've got, I was kitted up for close up, and she went, "Is there any way you could just jump up and do a trick to everyone?" And I was like, yes, I can, no problem, because I had my phone in my pocket. And then you jump up, and then everyone's just like, "Oh my god!" And there was loads of like people coming up to me afterwards, going, "That was incredible! I can't believe it." And then the booker was like, "I asked you 10 seconds before you did that if you had something you could do to the entire room, and that's what you just had on you." And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Oh my god!" And she was blown away. The audience were blown away. Even the musician that was sitting next to me about to start playing again, he came over to me and he was like, "I'm supposed to have already started, but what the hell just happened?" And I was like, "I'll tell you later, don't worry, it's fine." And then just disappeared and left. But yeah, it's phenomenal. Toxic is amazing. DFB is amazing. I couldn't. Assuming there was somewhere to charge my phone on this desert island, which Gwilym Bigjera, I was talking to him about coming on here earlier on, and Gwilym was like, "Well, you can't use apps because you're not going to be able to charge your phone on a desert island." And I'm like, "That's not how it works, dude." But I did say to him that I'd mention it, that if there's somewhere for me to charge my phone, then I'll take my apps as well.
So that's 14 tricks now that Matt has taken to his island. I feel like the concept has gone well and truly out the window at this point.
I'm a rule bender, Jamie. I'm a rule bender.
But that does bring us nicely onto your 2 curveball items. So obviously we gave you apparently 14 tricks to take with you, but now you're only allowed 1 book and 1 non-magic item. So what did you put in your book position?
My book. I'm not. But who was it that said recently on this podcast? It was a few episodes ago that they're not a big reader. I can't remember who it was, but someone was like, "I'm just not a big reader."
We've had a few people say it. Yeah, some people are just not big on reading books, which is fine.
I'm not. I'm really not. I'm not a big. It's mainly time, and I'm too impatient to read a book because I just want to get to the end. And know what it is, so that I can then act on that. It's the same with reading. Like I used to read a lot of novels when I was younger, and then I was just got way too impatient, and I just wanted to get to the end. And it's easier to just watch a movie because that's a couple of hours, and then you get to the end and you find out what happens, and you can move on to the next thing. So I'm not a big book reader. Craig's always telling me that I need to start reading magic books, and a bunch of people have the same opinion. You need to start reading magic books, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but so I'm going to go with 13 Steps, because although I've read bits of the book, I haven't read all of the book, but I have watched all of the DVDs. So I know that's cheating, and I know I'm bending the rules again, but we did a review of the 13 Steps of Mentalism on our channel. So I had to watch the entire thing all the way through start to finish. But I had the pack where you get it's the download version now that they've done, and you get all of the props and stuff in the pack that comes with it. And I learned so much from watching all of that. I learned so much stuff. It was just completely life-changing. At how one of the things that got me the most was just how bold everything is that he does on those downloads, and how simple things can be. That you don't have to. And there's going to be loads of people that are peed off at me for saying it, I know, but you don't have to do really complicated stuff to get a reaction. You don't have to be the best sleight of hand artist in the world to be able to go out and be a worker. You just have to be clever. And a lot of the routines that are in that book, and I know there's loads more in the book than there is on the downloads before loads of people start commenting and saying, "You're missing out." I know, and that's why I got the book as well, and I am working my way through the book. It's just going to take me a really long time to do it. But even just with the download version of it, there's so much stuff in there that is just so clever. It's simple and it's bold, but it's really, really clever. And I learned a lot from doing that video that we did where we did the review on it. Because I was like, if I'm going to review something that's this iconic within the world of mentalism, I'm going to have to give it everything. So I did. And yeah, I still have it at home, and I'm never going to, it's never going anywhere. That's always staying with me. And I am going to make my way through that book eventually. But yeah, 13 steps, I think, just because it taught me so much.
Well, you mentioned that there was, simple, bold methods, but when you look back at your list, Anverdi Dice, PK Touches, the Billet Peak, Sneak Thief, if you're going to use the close-up version, it's very bold. They are all bold but simple techniques.
Yeah, simple but bold methods, yeah, absolutely. I think that's my wheelhouse, simple.
So that brings us to your item then. So what did you put in your item position?
My motorbike. Because I couldn't live without my motorbike. Hinata, which is her name, because she's a Kawasaki, which is a Japanese-made motorbike. I know you're looking at me frowning at the minute, Jamie, but
it's more that you've named your bike. It's not so much. Okay.
Why would you not?
Continue.
Her name is Hinata because she is a Japanese bike, and Hinata means chasing the sun in Japanese. So I actually I've had stickers made, proper bike decals made, that are actually on the side of the bike in the same colour scheme as the bike. So her name is actually on each fairing at the front side of the bike. But yeah, Hinata is my, a lot of people pay a lot of money on therapy and going to see psychologists, and people do things to de-stress themselves, play computer games, go swimming, go for a hike, whatever it is that people do to de-stress themselves, go to the pub, whatever it may be. The thing that de-stresses me more than anything else on the face of the earth is going for a ride on my bike. So if I've had the worst week imaginable, I can get up on a Sunday morning, put my gear on, go for a ride, and that just clears my head. Because when you're riding a motorbike, it is literally just you and the road, and you haven't got time to think about anything else. You're just concentrating on that bit of tarmac in front of you that's coming at you really, really quickly. And you have to make sure that you are going to get around the next corner. So all you're thinking about is what you're doing in that moment, which is very freeing for the rest of your mind, because you're not thinking about everything else. You're not thinking about the stresses of the week. You're not thinking about, oh my God, I've got this gig I'm really worried about. How am I going to get this bit of work done in time? How am I going to learn that magic trick in time? Whatever it is that you're stressed about, it just disappears. And then within a couple of hours, I find myself on top of a mountain somewhere in mid-Wales, staring out over nothing. And you can be in the middle of nowhere in a very short period of time on a motorbike, because there's no traffic. There's no waiting in traffic lights or in traffic jams. You just go straight down the outside, done. You can get everywhere really, really quickly. So I very often find myself standing somewhere on the top of Snowdon, just looking out over the rest of the world, taking a big deep breath of fresh air before I jump back on my bike and head back to the city, but me and my cousin and a couple of mates of mine, and I'm in a motorbike group, Facebook group, and there's about 400 or 500 of us, and we go to all the bike meets and like Bike for Life festival where there's 12,000 bikes meet at Marbrace and ride down to RAF Cosford and that kind of stuff, and it's just a really good. It's like the magic community. It's just a bunch of people from all different walks of life that have all got the same hobby. Everyone likes riding motorbikes. So there's always something to talk about, because you're always just talking about motorbikes. It's the same with magic. It's the same with going to the Blackpool Magic Convention, and everybody there is just there because they like magic. So you've automatically got something in common with people, and you've automatically got something to talk about because everyone just likes the magic. And it's exactly the same with bikes. But it is my kind of, I don't make any money from bikes. That's not my job. So as much as I love performing magic and I love doing magic, every now and again, you just need to get on your bike and go for a ride and forget about it. So you can come back refreshed and your brain is kicked back into gear and you can start being creative again. So yeah, 100%. I mean, she wouldn't thank me for it, because motorbikes and sand really don't get on. So we'd have to find an area of the island where we can run her safely. But yeah, Hinata would definitely come with me to a desert island.
I'm also very excited to see how you get the crystal casket on the bike to get to your island. Do you have to sort of balance it with the master prediction system on the other side? Does it sort of...
What I could do is, because the crystal casket's on wheels, so I could use the chain from the master prediction system to wrap around the number plate tail tidy that I've got on the back of the bike, and then I could just drag the crystal casket behind me because it's on wheels.
And is that where you'd put Craig then? He'd be in the crystal casket, trailing behind the bike.
Is Craig on this island with me?
I presumed that it went hand in hand, no?
Oh, God. So that's thrown a spanner in the works. If I get marooned on a desert island, then at least I'd get some peace and quiet. You can't put him on there with me. It's going to ruin the entire experience. Oh, God, you've just ruined the entire podcast for me, Jamie. I was actually quite looking forward to it. I was hoping this was going to be an actual thing where I could have a holiday and you and the Alaka fam were going to actually pay to go and put me on a desert island for a week. I thought that would be great, but if Craig's coming with me, then you can forget it. I'm staying here.
Well, that was a great list, all the way from Anverdi Die, a Stebbins stack deck. We got PK touches, a Billet and Sharpie with Alex McAleer's Billet Peak, master prediction system, imposter, Bane, psychology, sneak thief, crystal casket, 13 steps to mentalism, and a motorbike. Great list. A good mix of stage and close up as well.
Yeah, I wanted to do a bit because I do both, and I didn't want to just focus on one and ignore the other. So yeah, I wanted to do a bit of a mix of. I mean, a lot of the ones that are predominantly close up you can do on stage, and a lot of the ones that are predominantly stage you could do close up. So yeah, they are a kind of a mixture between the two, but that's kind of what I was going for. So
if anyone wants to find out more about you, Matt, where can they go?
I mean, you could go to our channel, MagicTV. That's the YouTube channel. That's predominantly where everybody knows me from. I don't really post much stuff on my personal socials because we've got Mike who just does all the socials and stuff through the company. So MagicTV, slightly unusual. MagicTV predominantly would be where to go. Or ask any of you guys down Alakazam. You normally know where we are and what we're doing.
Normally at Alakazam this year.
With you, yeah.
Craig's been down at Alakazam more than he's been at home, I think, this year.
Yeah. Exactly. If you want to find us, if you want to see what we do, the vast majority of it is going to be on MagicTV. So go and have a look there. But I do have socials, so if you want to add me as a friend, then feel free to do so.
And conventions?
Blackpool's coming up. That was terrible. That was an awful note. My voice is not good today anyway, so I really probably shouldn't have attempted that. That was terrible. But Blackpool's coming up next month. Are you ready?
Getting there, yeah. We've got a few things to finish off without giving too much away. But yeah, we are pretty much there. We're looking forward to it this year, I think.
Yeah, we are too. We've got a double stand this year, I believe. So because Craig's released that many different products in the last 12 months that we need a double stand to get them all on it. So we've got a double this year, I think. And it's going to be hopefully me, Craig and Ryland all on the stand, because the last 2 years it's just been me because Craig and Ryland have been off doing other stuff. But I think this year we're all going to be on the same stand. That's what I've been told. Whether that actually happens or not is another matter, but that's what I've been told. And then we'll have all the rest of the conventions throughout the year that we will no doubt either be at, performing, selling, or just hanging around. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to 2025. I've got some big plans for 2025. There's lots of stuff in the pipeline. There's lots of stuff that I want to do. And I was speaking to Gwillem earlier on today, and both of us have got big things that we're going to do this year. So 2025, it's going to be a good year, man. I can feel it.
Well, we'll all have to keep an eye out. If you see Matt at a convention, obviously, please go and say that you enjoyed the fact that you had to pay Craig Petty £10 because of his rule breaks, and just
Sorry, guys.
show him your appreciation. Thank you so much for giving us your time, Matt.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me, man. Like, I can't believe I'm on the same podcast as people like Darren Brown and Mark Spellman and all these amazing guys that you've had on here. So the fact that you even asked me to do it was just like mind blowing to me. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, dude.
Well, you are the first guest that we've had who threatened to kill their boss. So that's...
Yeah, but nobody else on here works for Craig Petty, so it's understandable, you
know. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you at Blackpool in a few weeks.
Oh, really? If I don't see you before, dude, I'll see you at Blackpool.
And remember, if you guys want to be a part of our Monday episode, Stranded with a Stranger, send in your list of 8 tricks, 1 book and 1 non-magic item. Please include a little bio, as well as obviously the reasons for your tricks, and then we'll get one of those recorded for you. So we're going to be back again next week. We are fast approaching the end of the first season. We're going to have a special episode, which I won't ruin for you, but we will have a very special episode to break off the first season and then into the second season. There is going to be a new twist in the second season as well. So our guests, unlike Matt, who's just taken everything with him, they are going to have one extra thing that they can do on the island, but we'll tell you about that in a future episode. So for now, thank you all for listening and have a great week. Goodbye.
Hi, Peter Nardi here, and I really hope you enjoyed that podcast. I just wanted to let you know that Alakazam have their own app. You can download it from the App Store or the Google Play Store. By downloading the app, it will make your shopping experience even slicker at Alakazam. You'll also get exclusive in-app offers and in-app live streams. So go download it now, and we'll see you on the next podcast.